You know, we often just glance at the headline figures when we compare complex machines like aircraft.
It's easy to do.
So today we're digging into a question that kind of gets to the heart of that. Why is the Rafale often seen as, well, more capable than the Su-30, even when the Su-30 carries, like, almost double the fuel?
That's a great question. And it really sets up our mission for this deep dive. We've got some good material comparing these two, the Dassault Rafale and the Su-30 MKI.
Right.
And it immediately tells you, focusing on just one spec, like fuel capacity, that can be pretty misleading.
Absolutely. Let's just tackle that fuel difference head on, then.
Real.
The Rafale, it's got an internal capacity around 4,740 kilos, while the Su-30 MKI can lug, a massive 9,640 kilos.
Yeah, more than double. It's significant.
So you'd think bigger tank automatically means better plane, better performance.
Well, that's the obvious assumption, but no, it's not quite that simple. Not at all.
All right.
Well, fuel load definitely impacts range. It's really only one part of a much bigger picture.
So how do they stack up on range then, realistically?
Okay, so the Rafale's ferry range, that's flying clean with 3 external tanks, is about 3,700 kilometers.
Right.
The Su-30 MKI, its maximum unrefueled range on internal fuel is 3,000 kilometers.
So less, actually, without refueling or external tanks.
On internal, yes. Now, the Su-30 can extend that quite a bit with in-flight refueling, potentially up to, say, 5,300 kilometers with one top-up.
Okay, but that's ferry range or refueling. What about when they're actually, loaded for combat? Does the extra fuel help the Su-30 then?
That's the really crucial point. Combat range, carrying a full weapons load, that significantly cuts those nice ferry range numbers down for both aircraft.
Makes sense.
And interestingly, what our sources suggest is that the Rafale, it can sometimes maintain a slightly better combat radius in certain mission profiles.
Despite carrying so much less fuel, that's surprising.
It is, until you look at why.
So if it's not just about how much fuel you start with, what else is at play here?
Well, a really big factor is engine efficiency. The Rafale's engines, the M88s, are significantly more fuel efficient than the Su-30's AL-31s.
Okay, efficiency.
And this efficiency lets the Rafale do something really important that the Su-30 MKI just can't. It lets it supercruise.
Supercruise, right. That's flying supersonic without kicking in the gas-guzzling afterburners.
Exactly. Precisely. The Rafale can sustain speeds around Mach 1.4, based on our sources, without lighting the burners.
Which saves a ton of fuel at high speed.
A huge amount. The Su-30 MKI can definitely go supersonic, but it needs those afterburners, and that just drinks fuel.
Okay, so Rafale's faster for longer, more efficiently. But hang on, the Su-30 MKI, it's famous for its maneuverability, right? That thrust vectoring. Doesn't that count?
Oh, absolutely it counts. The Su-30 MKI has thrust vectoring control, or TVC. It gives it truly exceptional agility in a close-in fight, something the Rafale doesn't have.
So an advantage for the Su-30 there.
In that specific scenario, yes. But where the Rafale really pulls ahead, fundamentally, is in its advanced onboard systems, its brain, actually.
You mean like its radar, sensors, computers?
Exactly that. The Rafale features superior sensor fusion. It takes all the information coming in from radar, from this electro-optical system electronic warfare suite, and it fuses it all together.
Into one picture for the pilot.
Into a single, coherent, easy-to-understand picture. It gives the pilot what we call unmatched situational awareness. Plus, its general avionics architecture is just generations ahead.
So while the Su-30 is nimble...
It's a very capable aircraft, definitely. Very potent for its intended roles, no question. But it just doesn't match the Rafale in these critical tech areas. Sensor fusion, avionics, that overall awareness picture.
Right, so it's really not just about who has the biggest gas tank. It's a much more nuanced comparison.
Not at all, yeah. Fuel capacity is just one variable on a long list. You've got engine efficiency, that supercruisability we talked about, the sophistication of the avionics, the sensor capabilities. All these play a huge role in determining how effective an aircraft actually is in a mission.
So summing it up, the Su-30 MKI carries way more fuel, but the Rafale's efficient engines, its ability to supercruise, and its much more advanced brain, the sensors and avionics are really key reasons why it's often considered the more advanced and maybe ultimately the more effective fighter overall.
It's about that synergy, Smart design, efficient power, and cutting-edge technology all working together.
Makes sense.
And maybe that leads to a final thought for you listening. In a world where we love those simple, quantifiable metrics like fuel capacity, What other complex systems, maybe military or even civilian tech, might have their true value, their real capabilities, kind of hidden beneath those surface numbers? Perhaps looking beyond the obvious specs is where you find a much deeper understanding of how things really work.